July 11th, 2019. Chandler police respond to Lori Vallow's home in Gilbert, where she'd been living with her kids, Tylee and JJ.
He was just yelling at me.
Lori's brother, Alex Cox, tells police he got in a fight with Lori's husband, Charles Vallow.
I turned around and he hit me in the back of the head with a bat. So I went to my room and got my gun.
Alex shot and killed him, saying it was self-defense. According to police, Lori and Tylee were home when it happened and then left to take JJ to school. Officers talked to them when they came back home.
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah, okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know.
Alex Cox died in Gilbert in December 2019. His death is also under investigation.
At this point, all that we have is the information that Alex gave us.
Chandler police have been looking through new evidence obtained from search warrants, including an email that involved Chad Daybell. It was allegedly written and sent by Charles Vallow to Daybell in late June. But in another email, Charles said he never wrote that it was Lori that created an account for him and sent it to Chad herself.
First, we'd have to determine what's the validity of the emails. Once that's established, if it is, how do these add value to our investigations?
It's been 8 months since the homicide in Chandler.
We're hoping with Lori in custody that perhaps Gilbert PD or Rexburg PD are able to reach a conclusion in their case that will provide some direction for us to go regarding, is our case a closed case? Do we keep the case open and continue investigating?
Police say they are working closely with the agencies involved and say if Lori will speak to them, they'll send detectives to Idaho once she's extradited.
Welcome back. You're watching Court TV. I'm Ted Rollins. As that investigation continues, Doomsday cult mom is heading home. Lori Vallow appeared in a Hawaiian courtroom yesterday for a brief identification hearing. She's scheduled to be in Rexburg, Idaho tomorrow to answer to felony child endangerment charges over her missing children. Police allege that Vallow abandoned the children and delayed law enforcement's attempts to locate them. Our affiliate, KNXV, has more on the case that has rocked this small community.
Rexburg, Idaho, population 29,000. Home to BYU, Idaho, and the Temple for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
We were settled by members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. People don't move a lot, so there's still a lot of people in this community whose grandfathers and great-grandfathers were settlers.
Christopher Mann is the president of the Rexburg Chamber of Commerce. He says this is a college town. The university is owned by the LDS Church, and its students make 2/3 of the population.
I would say that they employ half the people in town at BYU, so it is the economic center of the community.
Tourism is another big draw.
We're the gateway to Yellowstone Park. We have wonderful fishing and hunting.
In the matter of Lori Noreen Vallow.
Now, Rexburg is at the center of a convoluted story involving 2 missing children, 3 suspicious deaths, and investigations in multiple states. Lori Vallow will return to Idaho to face charges of desertion, obstruction, and contempt of court.
I think this is probably one of the biggest crime stories ever to come out of here.
We saw was them playing in the yard.
Rachel Running studies at BYU and lives just a few doors down from Lori Vallow's old apartment.
People are just really shocked that something like that would happen in Rexburg, Idaho, of all places, because it's generally really safe here and nothing really happens.
Joining me now to discuss criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Leanne Lynch and criminal defense attorney Michael Bixson joining us as well. This case has a lot of people talking and a lot of people frustrated, angry, disgusted. This couple, they're living this strange life in Hawaii. No sign of the children. The children are obviously not in Hawaii with them, or weren't. Now mom is coming back. She's been extradited to Idaho, expected to be in court tomorrow. And it's pretty clear they don't know where the kids are. She's not being charged with murder. She's been charged with child endangerment because she hasn't produced the children. What's your take on the strategy here, looking for answers, Leanne? This is not the most serious charge, the child abandonment, but there's a $5 million bail on her.
It was the charge they thought they could get. So without having the children, without really knowing what's happened to the children, this is the charge that they knew they could bring against her. And I think they're trying to use this to levy pressure so that they can shake something loose and hopefully find out what happened to these kids.
And separate the two. Mm-hmm. This is such a strange story, Michael, with bodies everywhere. You've got an ex-husband dead, ex-wife dead, a brother dead, and 2 missing children. the end of the day, there's a lot of head scratcher going on here. It's a cult, though, and it creates this potential, actually on the upside, that these kids could be alive, because if there's a cult and there are other people involved, there's a chance that they're in, some random farm living a
bunker
culty
somewhere.
life. Yeah, doing whatever. Best case scenario, but any reason why they wouldn't produce the kids at this point? I mean, it's getting serious.
Well, I mean, look, if you're dealing with a cult or some, alternative living situation, some crazy scenario that like this might be, who knows what's happened to those kids? And, maybe, God forbid, they're dead. They're obviously missing, or at least we don't know where they are, But I'll tell you, as her attorney, I'd be very glad that at least right now we're not looking at something like a murder charge, And, if I'm going to advise her, I'm going to do everything I can to keep it at where it is in terms of this child abandonment or something, anything other than murder. And that becomes a very big cause for concern, especially when you have a trail of bodies this long like we do in this case already. I would be very fearful as to what has happened to those children and what they might end up charging her with.
Leanne, is this one of those cases where you don't ask too many questions of your client, or how do you assess? Because realistically, you want to know, as her attorney, are the kids dead or not? Because if they're not, would you not advise her to produce them or show some evidence so that the heat goes down?
Right, absolutely. I actually agree with Michael in this instance. You want to leave it where it is. You don't want to stir the pot too much. They obviously aren't satisfied with her level of cooperation at this point, and they think she's been obstructing the investigation, which is why they've been able to bring this charge against her. And that's where you want it to stay. If you're her defense attorney, you don't want too many people making comments. You don't want people talking to the media. You want to keep it where it's at, keep a lid on things, and stay in control of the situation as it currently stands.
If you're representing her, tomorrow she's going to be making her first appearance in Idaho, her home state. The bail's $5 million. Seems pretty high for these charges. It's perfect bail for this case. But,
Sure.
Was that something you would argue?
Absolutely. I mean, the bail is incredible. It's absolutely way too high based on the charges that we have here. And we all know why the bail is that high, because they think that she murdered the children. Now, if I were her and she's able to produce the children, fantastic. And if she can, she absolutely should. Make no mistake about it. If she knows where they are, they should come out of hiding today so that these charges can go away, especially the charges that she might be facing if they continue to not be able to find the children, So, yeah, but in terms of bond, I would absolutely be arguing it for it to be lower.
You've got investigations now going on, bodies being exhumed because the first two murders, 3 murders actually, deaths we'll call them, are now suspicious. They're not murdered. They haven't been classified as murders. That changes everything as well. You've got so much on the table. How do you, I guess from the defense side, you're basically just holding tight and crossing your fingers that they don't find anything? Is that the strategy?
I think as a defense attorney, you are trying to refocus the courts constantly on the evidence and what is actually able to be proven by the state, and just point out that there is really not much here. The state thinks they have, where there's smoke, there's fire. But if they can't actually prove anything against your client, then why are they continuing to hold her on this outrageous bail, on this outrageous bond amount? And then you just continue to focus on what the state actually has and try and point out how their case is weak against your client.
What if you believe that the kids are dead, or you're not sure? If you were representing her, would you want to know that answer? And if so, how would you go about getting it without compromising actually yourself?
I'd want to know whether or not she can produce the children. That's it. And if she can, great. And if she can't, we deal with it, right? I mean, all the other stuff, the multiple deaths in this case are obviously extremely tragic and terrible. But right now, I'm not concerned with that. She's not charged with it. And if the state had the evidence to prove it, they would at least charge her with it. But I mean, as far as the children, like if she can produce them, great. If not, it is what it is.
Chad Daybell, the new husband, Mr. Cult Leader, the author and Doomsday predictor, he believes that the end of the world will be in July of this year. On his way to the airport in Hawaii over the weekend, he told an ABC News producer that the kids are fine. Does that statement bring him into the case? Does he now have an obligation to follow up on that statement with authorities that are looking for these kids?
And that's the type of statement that just makes you cringe as a defense attorney, because now you have this whole nother factor in your case. It's out of your control. He's going to be contacted by authorities. They're going to want to know what he meant by that. He's probably part of the reason that the bond is so high, because there's all the resources of this cult or this church behind the mother of these children now that she's married this cult leader. So I think what's probably going to happen is you're going to see that he's going to very quickly lawyer up if he hasn't already.
Oh, he is.
Yeah,
They both have. Yeah.
And they're going to try and control or maybe walk back some of those statements as just rhetorical. We'll see.
Okay. Well, we're going to cover this tomorrow. We'll have a live coverage of this hearing that takes place in Rexburg, Idaho. It's expected to get underway at 4 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. A lot of people watching every bit of this case as it continues to unfold. Still no sign of those kids. When we return, an update on the late in our other trial that we're ready to go with. Gavel-to-gavel coverage. We just don't have a jury yet. Day 4 and counting in Florida. We'll have an update on that, plus more of the openings in the Robert Durst trial in LA. Stay with us.